Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Shelly.
Hey, Lisa, we've got a very special guest today. Welcome to Mary Beth Eberhard. Messed up your name.
Hello.
And we're excited to have Mary Beth because she's going to talk to us about something special that she does with her family in regards to hospitality. And first, Mary Beth, do you want to tell listeners just a tiny bit about yourself? Get us going?
Sure. So let's see. I am the mom of 8. I have 5 boys, 3 girls. One of my children is from Armenia. We adopted her when she was 10. 2 of my children are, they live life in power wheelchairs. They're in college now. So we're in a transition period in our family of like, what is life like now without the wheelchairs in our home as frequently. And let's see, I've been married, I lose count. I think it's 29 years this year. And I live in Ohio. I love to write. I love to read. And I love to gather people in my home. I love to welcome people as Christ into our homes. It's the mission of my family and it's the mission of my heart.
Love that.
I do too.
I think I love that, especially because that's not my mission. So it's like really interesting and kind of cool to talk to somebody who it is, and to you, especially with such a large family, probably adding more is just, I won't say different, but not as different as me trying to add more to mine.
You know what? It's one more person. And because we have the 2 kids who have the extra needs, they can't use their arms or their legs. So we have aides in our home all the time. And so there were always more people to feed and we were just used to it. And so right now with only 4 kids at home, I'm learning to, downsize the pans and downsize the meals. And yesterday I took out the check roast to put into the crock pots and he was like, check yourself. You have 2 crock pots out, my husband. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I went to Costco, they had 2 roasts on sale. And he was like, how many people are here? Who's going to eat all the pot roast? I was like, I defrosted them. What am I going to do? So I made a meal for someone else, but I'm still learning. I'm learning to downsize in my meal prep, but also keep my heart open for, who the Lord puts in front of us that needs to either be welcomed either in our home or to just feel that connection through a meal or something like that.
So is this something that you intentionally started doing, or is it just something that just naturally came about in your marriage?
Okay, so this is an actually interesting thing. Let me think how many years it's been. 12? I think it's been around 12 years ago. We built our home here and we joined a new parish. And in doing so, met a family who had a son in high school at the time. He was a senior and he was entering seminary. And once he entered seminary, they were moving back to Colorado and he decided to stay here and in Columbus. And we became very close friends with them. And they asked us if we would step into that role of being his parents. And so we really had to kind of think what that would look like, that commitment would be. And so we said yes. I mean, clearly they are his parents, but his parents on the ground here. And so that meant that we started opening our home to not only, him, my now father Michael, but to all of his brothers who would, need a meal just like my other kids' friends would need a meal. So that kept our doors. That's kind of a connection that we have as far as keeping our mission alive in that way. But it wasn't always easy to keep my doors open. In the beginning, I always wanted my house to look right. I needed everything, all my ducks lined up in a row. Uh, Father Michael used to call it like my pottery barn home. Um, but everything had to, your throw pillows and your
Yeah.
table had to look so pretty. Um, and it was exhausting and it was not
Mhm.
authentic. And I felt like I wasn't really giving everyone the real version of who we were called to be. So if opening our home, whether it be to the seminarians or to our neighbors or to my kids' friends, was our mission, and a mission is, of course, something that God is calling you to, then it's got to be from here. And so, um, bit by bit, I slowly stopped seeking the perfect, um, and welcoming people into kind of the holiness that is our mess, our family. Um, Saint Benedict has a saying, I think, may all be welcomed, all who enter here be welcomed as Christ. And I would welcome Christ. Matter of fact, I'd want him in my mess and in the beautiful, right? So
Mhm.
um, it's been a process, but it is a good one.
I love that. I've never heard that
Mhm.
that quote from Saint Benedict, and you
Mm,
putting it that way, that would you invite Christ in your home in the mess or in the chaos?
yeah,
Mhm.
that's when I
Yeah.
want him the most. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yes, we think of that and spiritually, right? We think of like
right.
going to our knees in prayer in those moments, but I love the image I'm getting of you opening the door physically to serve others and welcome Christ
Mhm.
into your home like that. I just
Mhm.
it's just kinda
It's so much, it's beautiful moments, and I really feel my mother's heart really soar when they come to the door now, because I've learned to, as I'm meal prepping, for whatever it may be, I always save things for our guests to do because I want them to feel welcome and
Mm.
part of the meal. Um, and there's a difference between hospitality and entertaining. When we entertain, it's a lot about like, like it's like, look at my stuff. Look at, like this home is, all put together. And we when we welcome, when we're hospitable, it really is that like virtue of sorts where it's more about, I want, instead of you seeing my stuff, I want to see you. I want to know your story. And that's where Jesus is really made, present in those encounters. And so there's really nothing like, having someone come in and being authentic when they're like, can I help? And I'm like, yeah, there's some red peppers on the counter. There's a cutting board right there. Would you mind
Mhm.
chopping those? And the platters in the fridge. And like, just the like, and and the conversation that happens, and it's beautiful. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
I've never made that connection, the difference between hospitality and entertaining in that way. It's funny that you say that because, when we have our family over, like, especially our mom or something, it's definitely like, "Mom, can you grab that? Do this." And, everyone's, Shelly's
Hmm.
husband is notorious for like helping with the dishes after a meal or, stuff like that. But when I entertain and have friends or couples over, you're right. Everything's done when they walk in. It's much more structured. And I never thought about it in that way. I really like that. I'm gonna have to think about that next time.
Yeah, we've had some really beautiful moments where we host this seminarian. So, out of Father Michael's coming into our
Mhm.
family, we host a seminarian Thanksgiving each year. And that started because he needed a place for Thanksgiving. And then I said, well, is there anybody else that needs a place for
Ah.
Thanksgiving? And then, um, and then it grew. We now host it not on Thanksgiving, the week before, but it's grown to about 95 of the seminarians,
I'm sorry,
and
95 people?
95 of them.
Wow.
Now they're not
And
coming to your
so
home, right?
they are,
You
yes.
you have a house
And
that can hold 95. Oh, you do something
I,
outside.
No, in my house, and I have to tell you how this goes down because it's just
Okay.
hysterical.
Yeah, because
Um, so
I
and
didn't
it's
know it was
evolved
that
over the
many.
I
years.
gotta hear this.
It
I
is,
thought you were gonna say like
and it's
10, 12.
no, no, no. At the most, it was 95. I think this year we had like 60 something,
Oh my God.
um, but no, it's so much fun. Okay, so it
Okay.
used to be that I would try to be perfect and like make, 4 or 5 turkeys and a ham and I, I was not the best version of myself after that. Um, and so and I realized that the purpose, like this could more um more could be served or more could happen with this, meaning
Mhm.
and not served as in fed, but um our seminary, the Pontifical College Josephinum, is it's the only seminary that is like tied to Rome, and so all of the different states, many will send their young men to study, and so hence why we get such big numbers. But I realized that many in our diocese didn't know really that this existed. And so I was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, there are a whole lot of people here who love to cook, who have these gifts. And um, it would they can form relationships too. So I sent out an email to the women's clubs at, like, I don't know, I think I said 3 different parishes in the beginning, and I was like, hey, would you any of you mind making a platter of like a big foil pan of mashed potatoes, and like I had a list, the staples.
Mhm.
And then the Knights of Columbus were like, hey, we'll buy the turkeys. And then it has expanded where I think we have like 15 or 16 parishes who, like, the guys, they love um the homemade desserts, and one of the men was from Latin America, and so he was like, oh, my grandma always makes this dish, and he happened to mention it, and I put it out there and someone made it. And so, like,
Aw.
they all had there's something for everyone there. And so that is super, super beautiful. And then the way that it goes is, we do have I've got like I'm trying to think how much space. I don't know. It's like 3,000 foot, like between 3 and 4,000 square foot up and down. Um, but because we have the wheelchairs, everything's very open, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
but in our kitchen, I'll just put a buffet out on the breakfast bar. And in the mudroom, I have carts that I've borrowed from the church, and it has like, all the like everything stacked and we have in the oven things warming, and it's just rotating them as they go through. But what's happened is, like, the rooms have divided. So in our dining room, we have if that's more the like the philosophical people sit there and they have their discussions. And in this room is more our musical room in our house. So, like, I've got my piano, it's my office, but why the piano's there, I'm not sure, but the piano is in my office. Um, but we have a couch and a couple chairs in here, and I have kids who play the guitar and the cajon, which is like the hand um,
Mhm.
drum. So they come in here and it's like a party. They're jamming out. And downstairs is our basement and it's finished. And so the bean bags are down there. And some of the guys, usually the young guys, will play like the rougher games, like tag and stuff with my younger kids. And that's a rite of passage for the seminarians as well, because they, when they first came, they would go down and get roped into, like, the sweaty games, the like
Mhm.
the ones
Yeah.
we don't want to play anymore. And so now it's really fun to watch, year 3 or 4 guys be like, no, John, why don't you go down with them? It's great. And then they all giggle. They're
I'll
like,
be in the
haha,
dining room.
right. They're like, sucker, and they're like, and it's so funny. And they all laugh because they know what's happening down there. Right. And my
Mhm.
kids are like, oh, um, and upstairs, my older kids have some of their, like, they've got like Mario Kart going, and a chessboard and some other things. And like all the guys are in different places and by the fire, like, and we have a dinette. And so, like, they all find their spots, whether they're sitting and standing, and yeah, it's crowded, but they are so at home. And we've been asked so many times, do you want to like host it at the church? And
Mhm.
I'm like, no, they need to be
Mhm.
in a home. They need a home.
Aw.
And it's
I
been
love
awesome.
that.
Yeah, it's
I
been awesome.
did it happen naturally or did I mean, I'm trying to say, I love that you have all these different spaces so that their personalities can be who they are naturally,
Yeah.
like the ones that wanna
Mhm.
talk about classical theology or philosophy or the gaming or the upstairs. I love that. Did that happen kind of on its own naturally over time? Or did you kind of had that those spaces, I suppose, were already planned out?
The piano's in here, and someone asked if they could play it, and I was like, "Sure." And yeah, I think the upstairs, the technology, one of my kids said, "Would it be okay? Father Michael plays with us or Deacon so and so." And I was like, if we, keep it fine. We don't have anything that's inappropriate, but let's not have any, from mom's heart, let's not have any shoot 'em up, bang 'em up games going on. Let's just have like
Yeah.
fun little whatever. Yeah, it has happened organically, and it's happened um, just so beautifully. Like once we had a bunch of missionaries here who were in town, and their method of praying was much more oh verbal, dynamic. It was very charismatic,
Mm.
and many of the seminarians were like, like we like that is not how we are taught. And the very but like especially the first time they come, they all have their like sweater vest on, and then like the fifth year ones are in their like flannels, because they're going to tuck in. um, but and I love my home, that my home can be used in this way,
Mhm.
because you have like the merging where you see these two groups come together, and they're singing and they're like praying for each other. And one of them be like, do you mind if I put my hand on your shoulder while we pray? And like it's so fun because like, yeah, I remember this one seminarian, he was like, yeah, sure, it's fine, sure. Like, but then like afterward, he was so moved, and I was like, it's okay to be touched, right? And the importance of touch, and like those encounters. It's just really cool to watch it all happen. It's one of my favorite things.
I love that. I never thought about the having missionaries and the seminarians and kind of intermixing and how they're
That's a
even
party.
not just the encounter with your family, but encountering with each other
Oh yeah.
and growing in that
Yeah.
way.
Hmm. Yeah. And they'll
So
bring some of their priests from the school as well, and there'll be a football game on, and like it's craziness.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
at any point did you say, okay, hold on, this is getting to be a lot? Or I mean, between you and your husband or the kids, or just say we got a lot going on. Maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. Was there
Mm.
a discussion
Or
or a
scale back.
discernment period of this?
About 4 years ago, yeah, I had colon cancer,
Oh,
and um, I was having surgery in the beginning of December, and so I had to let the guys know, like, hey, I can't do it this year. And they showed up, and they put Christmas lights on the house, and they made a spaghetti dinner for my family. They all
oh,
showed up and made their special sauce and their breads and their salads, and played with the kids. And I couldn't get up, but
mhm.
they took care of us.
Oh
It
my
was
They
beautiful.
served
gosh,
you.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
beautiful.
that's amazing.
Hmm.
What have your children? What do they say about this? Like,
Mm.
what fruits do you see bearing in them from these years?
I think the biggest, so the two would be hospitality and authenticity. So, you know, w- I say that, I've grown from my need to have everything put together, but we lay down our burdens and we pick them back up, right?
Mhm.
And so speaking it out loud, and really trying to raise my kids in this way allows them to call me to task, and it reminds us all who we are. So that authenticity of like, hey mom, you said, you keep correcting me when I'm doing this, in front of so and so, because I'm like, hey, can we not do that? Can we, so and so's over, and they're like, mom, you said that they're family, and we should treat
Ooh.
them as family. And um I love that they've actually owned that, right?
Mhm.
Because often we speak things and then we ourselves do exactly what we aren't supposed to. But and I love their authenticity, and I love their hospitality. When we get in seasons of being really busy, um, sometimes I just don't schedule them as much. We used to
Mhm.
have a standing, I think it was every other Friday that the guys would just be able to come over. And that started with Michael. And then, and it was always like, maybe we'll have peanut butter and jelly, or maybe we'll have, steak or chicken, who knows? But you're always welcome. And there were nights it was peanut butter and jelly, and they were like, we learned that some like crunchy and some like creamy. And I'm like, I've got both. but but again, that vulnerability where they see that like sometimes life is like this, but we still sit at the
Mhm.
table. And we've learned many variations of that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Some people put American cheese, some people put potato chips. It's but the
Peanut butter and
authenticity.
banana.
Yes, right? Honey, you name it. Some
Yes.
people like took
Oh,
out a
that's good.
skillet and were like, "Watch this." Um, and it makes the simple beautiful.
Mhm.
So I love that. And when we get busy, I tend to it slips off the plate. We can only hold, so
Mhm.
much. And as my kids are older, my youngest is 12 now, they're the ones who plan the events. Whether it be for their school friends or whatnot, and they know the drill. They'll always ask us like, "Hey, on, you know, the third Friday in April, can we do this?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, did you check the family calendar? Yeah, it's open. Okay, so you guys, dad and I will be here because it's important, that you have
Mhm.
some, adult figure, but I'm not cleaning. I'm not, you guys, you know how to make a sign up genius? And they're like, yep, we'll make the sign up genius. And they do. They make a sign up genius for their friends, and they pick a theme, like it's Mexican night. And they're like, and they know that, like, if you're going to host, you make the meat. And so they
Mhm.
do. And then people bring, their friends bring cheese, and they bring that. And it's this whole little thing that they've learned to welcome. And then their friends will stay and clean up as well. It's just because my kids know that they're responsible for cleaning up
Oh,
too. So
yeah.
they're like, so they're like, hey, you guys,
They
you want
build
to?
that into it.
They do. They do. But Lisa, one thing you said, I think was, um, the difference between entertaining and being hospitable.
Mhm.
The pickup, like the dishes, where Shelly's husband will do the dishes.
Mhm.
One particular Thanksgiving really struck me, which was we had one of our parish priests, Father Sizemore, over, and he's all of the young seminarians, like, just father figure. He's just so dynamic. And it was getting late and the guys weren't leaving, which was fine for me, right? I was like, it's okay, we know the drill. But he was like, hey, why don't you start to put the kids to bed? I got this. And I was like, Father Dave, are you sure? And he's like, I got this. So we were like, okay. So we started, we're doing our bedtime routine, and we start to hear, so they're doing the dishes, but we hear them singing their nighttime office.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness.
the coolest thing. Like, I will never forget that, because like they were doing the dishes, and like he had led like a father, right? And they were all gathering it, but they were praying and singing. And I thought, like, my home is filled
Mhm.
so much right now. It was just the coolest thing. And I thought, all because we opened our door.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so cool. Yeah.
I I I'm just in awe because we're almost empty nesting, and my husband and I have talked about it, that now that our lives are calmer, we don't have any kids
Hmm.
at school anymore. Um, it's it's like we want to have community and invite people over, and I'm trying, but I've been struggling with it, and it's not very natural for me. And I listened to you speak about this, and I'm so inspired, and I realized that such a component was missing, where you said to, would you welcome Jesus into your home, and how would you do it? And And I've never, as much as I might quote Mother Teresa and other saints that you see the face of Jesus in every person you encounter. I've never
Mhm.
thought about it in my home that way, and now I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm doing this wrong, and I need to fix that. And maybe if I could fix that or change the way I'm approaching it, I wouldn't feel all of the angst and stress. And like you said, not always be the best version of yourself when you're doing it.
There's the reality that every single person we encounter, their life is messy too, right?
Hmm.
And so when we are vulnerable enough to show our reality, then there's that you too moment, right? Like,
Hmm.
and you're just like, yeah, the that onion, it's rotting in my fridge. You can just throw it out. I didn't know it was there. I'm like, oh well. And they just smile and it's like, okay, Jesus, and I think also when it we get to show our own spirituality. So like your family has their
Hmm.
own spirituality. And I talk out loud all the time to the Lord. My kids are like, you are a crazy lady in the grocery store. Um, but yeah, I remember we just had a brunch with some of our friends over, and I was like, again, that's why I went to the onion. I was like, yeah, just throw that out. That's been in there. I don't know how long that's been in there. I'm sorry. And I was like, humility, Lord, thanks a lot for that. And it's just that recognition that we're all,
Hmm.
you know, we're all living.
Hmm.
We're all living.
Mary Beth, do you have any advice that you would give to people who, like Lisa, are mulling this over now and approaching this, but maybe there's someone who hasn't and is interested in doing it? Like, where would they start? I mean, with like
Mhm.
inviting, I guess, a parish priest to come to a meal?
Sure. Yeah, I would start with your parish priest, or if you have an order of sisters. My kids call the orders of sisters their aunties. It's amazing. Like have an order of sisters over. That's like babysitting extraordinaire. They're amazing. But yes, just have them over for dinner. When they say, "Can we bring something?" Say yes. And think about, and you can even say like, "Well, I don't know what I'm making." And closer to it, you can say like, okay, I think I'm going to make, some pasta. Do you want to make a salad? Or do you, for the seminarians, because they don't have access to a kitchen as much, I'm like,
Hmm.
would you guys mind picking up some bread? Or one of them a few years ago brought chocolate milk. And so now my priests or my kids think that all priests drink chocolate milk. And so we are now in like year 10 where they bring chocolate milk to the Thanksgiving and they toast to
Aw.
chocolate milk. But just asking them to bring something, involving them in the prep, always saving something for them to do.
Mm.
Um, and you can read. I mean, some people enjoy being, like served, and you can still serve and welcome at the same time.
Mm.
That's that like Mary, Martha, balance there. Um, but um, you know, I we had the bishop over. I don't know what I was thinking. Um, But I was like, "Why not invite the bishop?" And, and I knew things could go south quickly, and so I invited a couple other seminarians who I knew the bishop, kind of as, like, buffers, right? Or, like, people
Mm.
who could, just handle my kids a little bit, because they get excited because when they see priests come over or seminarians, they're like, "We're gonna play," right? And the bishop probably wasn't too much up to that, though he dove right in, but, you kinda have to here. But it's that, if you're having your parish priest and you think like, "Ah, he might be uncomfortable," invite, you know invite him to bring, someone else. You could even say like, "Hey, if there's someone else at the parish that, like who might enjoy a meal who's alone, or like feel free to invite them over and we can host," right? Our parish priest used to I would say, "Hey, you can use our home. We'll host with you."
Mm.
And um whether it be new people in your parish, you could do something like new members who are coming. You could offer to host a meal for the new members for the past 3 months.
Mhm.
And, maybe that's 10 or 12 of them. Um, and you get to share what you love about your parish, and they get to meet a family and, feel connected. It's all about
Mhm.
making the connections.
I like that.
I would never have thought of that in a million years. I'm just telling, I'll be real.
You don't, you're good. But you will think
No.
about things that I don't think about. That's
Yeah.
why we all have
Our
different
parish has
callings.
a group called Teams of Our Lady, and they're married couples that are put together into a team. And then they each month a different person hosts. And so you've got to be able to seat, I think, 12. There's usually 5 to 6 couples. And then like the main house prepares the main meal, the house hosting, and everybody has an assigned thing that they bring. Somebody brings the wine,
Mhm.
somebody brings and my husband and I were able to do that for about a year before our kids got into, we'll say, full on 100% of the time sports. And
Right.
then it was me going and my husband not, because he was with whatever city they were traveling in for that sport.
Yeah.
And so we backed out. But it was stressful for me to try and figure out how to clean the house and where to put, they want you to ideally put it in one long table. And if we didn't have one long table, so we had them split
Mm,
up between 2 rooms, and it just didn't work out as great. And it's like, okay, we only had to do that part once. I was much happier just bringing a dish, and it was always keep it
right.
simple. But the first year, people are always trying to show off, entertain, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can make a pie. So my
Yeah. No,
favorite
I
though
think
was
it's
one couple. They had just had pizza, takeout pizza, and they just lined the counter with takeout pizza. And we're like, you said keep it simple, right? We were like, thank you.
yes. And we have had times where we've forgotten that we set up like we were gonna have people
Oh,
over. Like I'm out in my front gardening, right? And like I see a car pull up and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, mm. And I'm like,
oops.
just in time. We're having pizza night tonight. Like we thought it would be such a special treat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mary Beth. And the kids are like, yes. Um, but it's real. It's real. And I think the most important thing
Mhm.
is again to just keep it real, to keep especially our parish priests and our seminarians and our sisters, our religious, like they need to
Mhm.
see family life. They need
Mhm.
they need to be immersed in it. And I they've walked with us through so many things, the really messy, the humbling, the like
Mhm.
just crazy. And to feel the reciprocity, like a real friendship of like, wow, you really love me. You love me enough to love me in this. And I'm going to show it to you because quite frankly, I don't have the energy to to show you anything other than who I am. Like this is just what I have. And for them to sit down and, there's laundry on the couch and there's, you know, someone's cereal bowl on the coffee table um and my kids will come down in their PJs and they have Deacon Kevin is often at our house lately and they'll be like, hey DK, and they'll just sit down and grab their coffee and it's and he just you can just see them go, and we all need
Mm.
a place, and it's humbling. Like I look around sometimes because in our hearts and minds we know our worries, we know everything else we're
Mhm.
balancing, right? And it's crazy that our home can have so many purposes. And so at the same time that it's crazy and messy in our heads and we're balancing all the things, we look around and we think like, wow, like such goodness is happening here. Like you just see the Lord made present and it's really beautiful.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. I recently had my first dinner party and I served raw chicken, just being honest. And
Hey,
my friends were so gracious about it and I picked it all up and microwaved it. Um and that was so depressing for me.
is that your small group?
Shh, yes. You didn't I didn't tell you
Oh,
about that?
but
I had so
no,
many
but
of
I
those.
can't think of a better group that would be
Oh
understanding,
my
Lisa.
gosh, yes.
That's
But
awesome.
so I have not what I'm not I don't love to cook or anything. But so I've been so listening to you, Mary Beth, I'm like, I should try again. And I should try in a much more just
Relaxed.
relaxed,
So
make something
relaxed.
I'm really comfortable making
Yeah, spaghetti and
or just
meatballs.
being honest and letting them bring most of the food and I will do the salad and the wine.
And it
And
doesn't
they'd
even have
probably
to
be fine
be
with
about
it.
the food, right? Like you
You
Right.
can
just set
bring
up a
in the food, you can order Chinese, but what
Yeah.
you want is like it's you. It's the dynamic, like the spirit that lives within your home
Mhm.
that is unique to you that you're sharing. It's not really like they're
Yeah.
not coming for your culinary talent, right? Because they wouldn't come to my home for that at
They're not,
all.
yeah.
It's not my specialty. It's just not. Hence the PB and J's. But they really are coming to just. I can't figure it out. I'm like, this isn't like false humility. I really cannot figure out why they keep coming back. But
Mhm.
there's something here that draws them, and I have to believe that it's family. I have to believe
Mhm.
that it's like just the realness that we have nothing other than the energy. Like sometimes in life you reach a point where like that's all you have
Right.
to give, and yet that's everything, and they see that, and I have to trust that that's what it is. So don't worry about your
Mhm.
cooking. Like
That's
order
what I always
Chinese,
worry about.
and you can even be like, hey, let's do Chinese. We just want to gather with you. So
Right.
like, what's your favorite thing? Because like mine's sweet and sour, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, we did that one time, and the priest like took like, um, I was a little appalled because I was in my Pottery Barn stage, but like he took like, and he like took some from mine and some of my husband's, and I was like, oh yeah, okay,
Oh,
this
it
is
wasn't meant to
what we're
be
gonna do.
family style.
I hadn't anticipated that, right? And I was like, and then I was like, okay, like all right, and
Yeah.
it's how we do it now, and it's really funny, but and and he's like, it's all going in my same belly, and I was like, I guess so. Yeah. Um,
That's
but it was
awesome.
awesome. It was awesome.
Now,
Yeah.
do you hear
Thank
from
you for
many of
sharing
these
that you've had a
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
thank you
No,
for
go ahead.
sharing a real moment that was a little
so
like,
many.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So many.
Um, so do you hear from them, many of these men who are now priests? Do you hear from them years later and do they say anything? I know I saw one of them
Do you
reach out
keep in
I saw on
touch?
your Facebook when you were talking about this meal that he remembered when he used to come over. Do you hear from many of them later?
Yeah, we do. And it's really, really cool. So from hosting these dinners, and again, the guys are from all over, yes, Columbus, but all over the country. And so we've been invited to ordinations, and we can't go to every one, but like, we decided we wanted to show our kids the Grand Canyon. So 2 years ago, I think we went to an ordination in New Mexico. We drove um, a long time,
Especially for
very long
Columbus
time.
to
It was 30 hours, friends. Never, ever
Oh,
again. When
yeah.
things sound good, we're like, we're going to have
Uh-huh.
that family trip. No. I'm like, no. um, but we did it. And we
sounds like
went
a
to his
reality show.
ordination. It was. I wish there should have been cameras, but I'm glad they're not. Um, but um, but we went, and so relationships have formed, and
Mhm.
my daughter flew out for her 16th birthday to visit him again, right? Like they have these relationships. We the 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 Josephinum, the seminary will have like their annual fundraisers, and it's so cute because I just
Mhm.
got a call, and these are grown men, right? And but like I don't know, one of them called, and he was like, "This is so and so from the Josephinum," and I know who it is, but he's not quite recognizing my name, which is fine. And I'm like, "Yes, how are you? It's so good. How's your family?" And he's so confused, right? And then he's like, "We were just wondering if you guys, your family, wouldn't mind contributing, blah blah." Like, of course, yes, we were expecting this, no problem. And I was like, Miguel, do you recognize, my name? And he's like, I do, but only a little bit. I'm sorry. And I'm like, Miguel, you ate Thanksgiving at my house. And he's like, oh my gosh, yes, that was so fantastic. And he was like, my favorite part was, and so it's fun to make those connections. I think we get the most beautiful thank you notes, which is lovely. Um, One of my favorite moments from hosting, I think it's always is there. It was the second year, and um, the first year we had a bunch of leftovers, and so we ended up taking a bunch to the soup kitchen because I was like,
Mm.
we're we're not going to eat all of this." But the second year, the seminarians um, kind of knew that there were leftovers. So one of them was leaving early. And I was like, thanks for coming. You are always welcome, et cetera. And inside his coat, he takes out a Tupperware and he's like, do you mind? And I was like, you are fantastic. This is such a good idea. I'm like, this is such a good idea that I'm going to have take home containers. And so now on my Sign Up Genius, I said take up containers. And so they get to take a meal home with them
Aw.
as well, which if there's leftovers. But it was so funny because he was so sheepish, right? But it was like, I was like, he feels at home, like he's
That he
asking
came
for
prepared.
leftovers. And
Mhm.
it was the best
Aw,
thing. I still laugh over that. Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I, I feel like we could talk about this forever, and unfortunately, we have to.
It's
I
okay.
know
We all have
we have to move
deadlines
on.
today. Yes.
I know, I know. I got to take the dog to the vet. So, but we always ask our guests 2 questions, and so Shelly is going to ask you the first question.
So, Mary Beth, you did share with us before we started that you do have sisters. And Lisa and I, because we're sisters running a podcast, we always ask our guests, could you share with us a sister story that won't get you in trouble?
Mm. And I shared with you that I can't share a group sister story because that would get
Mhm.
me in trouble. Because is it just the two of you
Yes.
as
Well, we have
sisters?
a brother.
We have a brother. Yeah.
Okay, but it's probably the same too. Like there's trouble in numbers, right? So when you all get together, there's that's when the fun happens. But I think the most beautiful thing memory I have recently is with my oldest sister. Her name is Gina, and you go through seasons
Mhm.
with family, and she is 6 years older than I am, and we're
Mm.
at the season in life where we respect each other's like life experiences and wisdom, and we're able to turn to each other and kind of share really honestly, and and I'm surprised by it, and I'm excited and blessed by it. And we are scheduling a trip to meet kind of in the middle, and we've never done that. And
Mm.
we didn't, I didn't grow up in a home that was so safe, and so now we're reconnecting in seasons and able to know each other on like where we are now in life, and it's really
Mhm.
beautiful. I'm really grateful.
That's
Wow.
lovely.
Yeah.
I love those stories where families are able to come back together and kind of revisit not just the memories, but how it shaped your life and how it made you. You grew up in the same family, but there's an age gap, and you never know how one's life impacted the other until you
Hmm.
have those conversations. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. And Mary Beth, our last question is, what saint is currently walking with you in this season of life?
Right now it's Saint Monica. I love Saint Monica. I
Oh,
love her steadfastness.
so
I
sweet.
love just when I think I verge, like I'm walking on the edge of crazy, and how much I'm kind of investing in my kids' lives and pleading for the Lord, probably stepping over the line of like how much of me versus trusting Him, right? I really
Mhm.
turn to Saint Monica and I think like, you know, she was over the edge. Like she was so over the edge, and she's a saint. Like,
That's
I mean,
true.
she followed him. She got on the boat. Like she
Mhm.
went, I was like, I would go. And my husband's like, that does not justify you camping outside their house. Like you cannot, like you cannot, like, no, you can't put something in his car. You can't, like, you gotta hold yourself back. But but you know what? We mothers, we love big. We love
Mhm.
big and we worry big too. And with Saint Monica, there's just that trust that no matter how long, no matter,
Mhm.
you know, how far, that God is working.
Mhm.
And she just gives me such peace, and
I
she
love that.
justifies my crazy.
love it. She
Which
was
I
the
love.
OG
Persistence,
helicopter
not crazy.
mom.
Persistence.
Is that what we're
Persistence.
calling
Thank
it?
you. Yes. 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 We'll say, I'll save
We can
my
wordsmith
stories
that one
and
all
we'll call it.
day.
Thank you. Thank you. We're all writers. We can appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going
She's
to
one
write
of my,
that
she and
down.
I,
You are not crazy. You are persistent. Mhm.
St. Monica and I just had a little talk yesterday. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, Lisa, I think that wraps up this episode. I know you have your little spiel to bring out at the
Well,
end.
I just want to tell Mary Beth, thank you again for coming. We met a year and a half ago, right?
I think so.
Was it a summer
Was it in Chicago?
in Chicago?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we've had this opportunity to. We haven't talked since, so we'll have to continue this later. Not on video.
I remember when I did meet you that it was such that the two such a force of sisterhood, and the topic of the show, like some of it in regards to being vulnerable and real, and that's what
Mhm.
shines forth from the two of you, and from the time that I've gotten to share with you is just the realness, and the lesson there is just like take that and go into let it shine through from your homes, because it certainly shines through in your hearts.
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So,
And our mother thanks you.
yeah.
Sorry, just popped in my head like that.
His mom was probably like, she's listening going, and me too.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. We know. Isn't that funny? We just know.
Yes, we do.
So
All right. Thank you, Mary Beth. And thank you, Shelly. And thank you, dear listeners, for being here today. And I just invite all of us to take to heart what Mary Beth said and really think about when we have someone into our home that we invite them like we would invite Jesus into our home. All right. We will talk to y'all next week. Thank you.